What's up, Through the Waves? We are super excited to have you back for an all-new podcast episode. Today, we are actually going to be talking about the living water. And if you don't know what that means, you're about to find out. And we are just so happy that you joined us for another episode. Go ahead and like and subscribe on whatever platform you are listening on. And for those of you who don't know a lot about us, you can follow us on Instagram at Through the Waves Florida, or Through the Waves on Facebook, or you can check out our website, check out our cool merch that we have at throughthewaves.com. But yeah, we are super excited because we have Tyler Wyman. Did I say your last name correct?
You did.
Okay,
Thank
good.
you. Thank you for saying it right.
Everyone says our last name wrong. They call us buzzards.
You know, I get the pain.
Yeah.
I understand your pain.
Does anyone ever say your last name wrong?
I get woman. I get women. I get. Well, I mean, I get. Like
Woman,
said,
I don't get how somebody could get the Y mixed up with an O.
You know, I've been asking myself the same question for years, and yet it still happens.
Okay.
So.
Well, interesting.
So we're in the same boat.
Tyler Woman on the podcast today, joining us. Me and Tyler have known each other for quite a while. We actually met at church. I met him around the same time I met JR.
I think almost the exact same time.
Yeah. I mean, technically, I met JR like a year and a half before I met you, because I met him at the church Christmas party at his mom's house. Then I didn't really talk to... You were there?
I was there.
Oh.
I was there.
I don't think I talked to you that night. Or met... Like, I don't remember you being there.
Oh, I was definitely there.
Okay. Well, do you remember me being there?
Yes, actually, I do.
You do?
Yeah.
What?
I do.
Okay.
Like, I didn't. Obviously, we weren't close, but I think we had like a brief conversation at some point.
I thought that was at the coffee shop when Jake used to do the Bible
It was at the
studies.
coffee shop too, but I definitely remember. I think we had just like a very brief conversation.
Okay. Well, my bad. There was a lot going on that night.
Yeah.
Yeah,
just me
I
and her
met
future
my
husband, it's
husband and
fine.
I didn't even know it.
You didn't even know that's insane.
Right?
That's
And-
also awesome.
You know, it goes back to like that saying where people are like, I guess people say that a lot of people who are single have already met the person that they're supposed to be with.
You know, I heard that by 18 you've met them.
By 18?
By 18, and I'm sitting here going, that's funny.
But I didn't know JR until I was 28, 9.
Yeah,
Yeah, so that's not true.
that's definitely not true at all. So whoever said that,
They're a bunch of
you're a liar.
goobers.
You needed to repent. repent before the Lord.
Yes.
And of course we became friends. Well, I think I was friends with JR first, and then got to know you obviously. And
Yeah, we were all on the production team together. We made our silly, goofy videos. So
the fun times.
Tyler is definitely used to being on camera and behind camera too.
Yes, I have experience in both, and even with podcasting.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and speaking of podcasting, so we actually filmed this podcast, about a year ago or so?
no, more than that.
More than that?
More than that.
A year? Were me and Jared married? Yeah.
No, you guys are still dating.
Okay, so we filmed this podcast, but it never got released. So this time it is going to get released. If you're listening to it, it has been released.
And if you're asking, well, what happened to the first one? We're just not going to talk about it.
Yeah.
We're going to plead the fifth.
Nothing happened with the audio.
Nothing bad.
Nothing.
I mean,
Yeah, we don't know.
Nothing terrible. It's just never going to be heard by any human ears ever again. And
might.
We're going to keep it that. No, sorry. At this point, I'm going to stick with JR. I'm going to stick with my buddy and say it is just never being released.
Okay,
Sorry.
we'll go with that.
I'm not sorry.
Let me clear my throat. Sorry, I had a tickle.
Because every time we're on a podcast, you have to do something that sounds
Weird.
weird and it's like, oh, this is going to sound bad.
Because you're speaking into a mic directly.
The entire
And
time.
now I made you have to cough, didn't I?
I'm going to take a drink.
Okay, but anyways, back to topic.
Oh, wait, hold on. Sorry. But then, hold on. I was in your wedding.
Oh yeah, sorry, I completely forgot we were talking about how we know each other. He was in our wedding. He was.
I was at the very
groomsman.
end, and I was very okay with being there.
Hey, they told us to order it that way.
Yeah, and hey, listen, he had his brothers and best friends from college, so I was the last one to come into his life.
I sense a little bit of hurt.
It's just a little hurt. It's fine, no big deal. I was only here from the beginning of your relationship.
Yeah, you were.
And I got to
You were here the
hear
whole time.
everything from his side. He'd call me late at night. Sarah said this.
Yeah, you guys had
Many
a
times.
bromance before our romance.
Oh yeah, yeah, that's true. Oh, I like that. We had a bromance before your romance.
Yeah, I feel like every guy has to have their bromance before their romance because what are they going to do when they finally meet the Mrs. Right, right?
Oh, for sure. You have to have a guy that you can go to be like, bro, you gotta hear what happened. Like, I
Yeah.
gotta tell you everything that happened. It's like, here's what she said, here's what we did, yada yada yada.
You just have to have like a
as
good
much as women think that we don't talk about that, we talk about it all the time.
Whoa. Getting in on a little guy's secret here.
I mean, not really. not as much as you may think.
But I think it's good though to have like a good accountable friend that you can go to and that you can trust like that.
Oh no, absolutely. And honestly, nowadays it's like when you find that you hold on to it because you don't find that very often.
Yeah.
So like that's why like I held on to like people like JR, I held on to people like Albert, I held on to people, a bunch of other people.
Yeah.
And it's like, some of those people come and go, but like the real ones stick around. And
Exactly.
here we are, how many years later now?
Yeah, and that's going back to like the real ones stick around. Don't ever chase people, and like obviously you have friends in life where maybe you might have messed up. Like don't be afraid to acknowledge when you're wrong. But if you have people, friendships, relationships, anything where you feel like you're chasing people, that person I feel like is not meant to be in your life.
To a point, you do want to chase people in a way, but there's a certain point where you have to,
way.
you have to hold yourself back and go, okay, at this point now this is unhealthy.
Yeah.
At this point now it's, now I'm just gonna let God kind of take it over, and whatever happened may happen.
Yes.
If but of course, if they keep coming back and they just use you for one thing or another, then it's like,
Yeah. And I like what you said about just letting God take it over, because I feel like there's friendships or relationships where I've tried to take control and take the initiative to have someone around. But then it gets to a point where it is like that, setting that healthy boundary of like, okay, it's not getting where I want it to be. So now I need to let God take control of the situation. And if it's meant to be here, it will happen, and just give it to him.
that's a hard lesson to learn, especially when you want that person in your life.
Yes.
And you're like, oh my gosh, they need to be in this in my life, and they don't want it, and they run. It's very difficult, and it's draining on you. It puts you in a very bad position. It honestly like becomes almost like, I want to say an idol, but they become an idol. They become you put them in front of God, and obviously that's not where you want to put
A person.
you don't want to put anyone before God,
Yeah.
because they will just continuously disappoint you.
Yeah, exactly.
Hard lessons learned.
Hard lessons learned. But anyways, going back onto topic, we didn't even plan to talk about that. It just kind of happened. Hey, maybe it was meant to happen. What is meant to happen? And you know what? We didn't pray before we came on, which I want to start doing that. So do you mind if we say a quick prayer?
Do you want to do it, or do you want me to do it?
You do it.
Yeah. Okay. All right. God, thank you so much for this wonderful day. God, thank you for the ability to share your voice, your love, your message in a platform and in a way in which is very creative and very reflective of you. So God, please bless this podcast. Please bless Sarah and JR as they continuously be faithful to your mission and what you want them to do, Lord. So may you bless this podcast. May it become the #1 podcast in the world. And may the message that Sarah and JR want to spread about your love and your message be reflective of how they take care of, how they shepherd not just themselves in their relationship, but how they shepherd the world through cleaning up the oceans, the messages that they proclaim that is still just completely rooted in you. So God, continue to guide them in the way you want to, and please bless anyone who is listening to this podcast that they may be able to get something from it, even if something very small. Please let them be able to get something from it, from our conversations, and may our conversations be filled with love and you first. In your holy precious name we pray. Amen.
Amen. That was such a good prayer. Thank you. I was going to do it, but you said, do you want to do it? And I said, nope, you can do it.
Well, it's funny. I'm not allowed to pray before meals.
Oh,
I've been banned.
why? Oh, because it's like a long prayer and people are
I've gotten
hungry.
better. I've gotten better. If it's just food, it's like, okay, thank you God for this day. Amen.
Yeah.
Because one time I did a prayer when I was with an ex relationship, and
Oh.
we were watching like the storm rolling from the sea because we were at a beach house.
Uh-huh.
And we were praying for the food we just made. It's like, all right, no, Pastor Tyler, go ahead and pray. And I'm just like, whatever. And I go, rub-a-dub-dum, thanks for the grub, yay God. And as soon as I said yay God, a lightning struck within like half a mile of us.
Oh
And
my.
I went, okay, I'll never say it again. And to this day, I have never repeated that prayer.
Wow. Yeah.
Because I was like, God, let me know how he felt about that.
He didn't like the rub-a-dub-dub part.
And I listened.
Yeah. I mean, I would listen too after that. But anyways, getting back to where we started.
Were we trying to start?
Back to where we started. Oh, what song is that?
I have no idea.
I just wanna sit here at your feet. What song is that?
Oh geez, I feel so bad. I feel like a terrible Christian.
Holy moment. I never wanna leave.
JR, look it up.
Oh, nothing else. Nothing else. Nothing else.
Nothing else.
Okay.
Nothing else will do. I will never sing on a platform in front of people ever.
You could. You could do
I have a
it.
table
Maybe
voice. No.
karaoke.
Okay, karaoke, that's different. You're
Yeah.
meant to embarrass yourself. But
Karaoke's fun.
when it comes to leading in worship, I doubt any church is going to go, hey, you should come join the worship team.
You could do drums. You could do guitar.
That is true. I do like
I always wanted to learn the drums, but I never did.
why not get back into it?
I
Now
don't
that you have
know.
a place of your own, we can record stuff here now.
I know, but sometimes you try to focus on too many things at once and then you get sidetracked.
That's true. You mean how much we get sidetracked in this podcast today?
Exactly. So going back to where we started without singing, without talking about drums,
Nothing else.
here we go. So today we are going to be talking kind of based around John 4:10. So John 4:10 says, Jesus answered her, if you knew the gift, Jesus answered her, so her being the woman at the well.
The Samaritan woman at the well.
Yeah, oh, yes.
Highly important.
Yes.
Highly important.
Sorry,
Sorry,
my bad.
my biblical
Yes.
nerd is coming out. So
Yes.
I apologize.
And Tyler will talk all about this. If you knew the gift of God and who it is that asked you for a drink, you would have asked him and he would have given you living water. So we're going to go into that. We're going to talk about what that means, what living water is. But before we do so, I have a little icebreaker, which I don't feel like we need it, but we'll do it anyway.
I was gonna say,
We already got
How far
sidetracked
into
and
the
been talking
podcast
for like
are
20
we?
minutes. But I like to ask people ocean questions because we are an ocean-based brand as well, and we love the ocean.
yes, we do.
So we'll just bust these out real quick without getting sidetracked.
Okay, yeah, sure.
All right, bum, bum, bum. True or false? We're on like Who Wants to Be a Millionaire right now.
Do I get lifelines?
Absolutely not.
That is unfair. Okay. All right, fine.
Absolutely not. Jesus is your lifeline. True or false? The ocean contains 97% of the Earth's water.
You said 97?
Yep.
That is true.
Ding, ding, ding. Correct. That is correct. Okay. True or false? The largest mountain range is found underwater. Do, 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 do.
I know it's the deepest part of the world, but I want to say that's false.
It's true. True. JR, you gotta hit him with a buzzer.
Can you put that sound in too? Okay, good.
Meh. And the last one, what percentage of the oxygen we breathe is produced by the ocean? A, 95%, B, 80%, or C, 70%?
I think it's a solid 80.
That is also incorrect. And you have failed.
I have failed. I've gotten 33.3%. So
It's actually 70%,
sorry,
which
Mom.
is still quite a bit.
That's actually a lot.
Yeah.
I know the Amazon rainforest is a big part of the Earth's cleansing system of CO2.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I mean, it makes sense though.
It makes a lot of sense
Yeah.
because trees do that, but the same thing with like
Mm-hmm.
sea moss or I mean I'm not the biggest nerd in the world when it comes to science, but that makes sense. That's actually kind of cool.
Yeah, it's really cool. I mean, even doing this, I learn ocean facts as we go. Some of them I know, some of them I'm like, this is pretty cool. Okay, but now jumping back into it, going back to John 4:10. So go ahead and let's dive in here. Go ahead and get started with a little bit of stuff that you have had like prepared for us before coming on here.
You sure you want that? Because it could be here for an hour.
Yeah, if it gets to the hour mark, I'll just be like,
I'll literally just end the podcast.
Yeah, it'll just shut off.
Okay, I'll try to keep it short. So the story is based on Jesus meeting the Samaritan woman at the well. Being a Jewish person, it is customary for them not to associate with Samaritans. You know, this is a very well-known fact that Samaritans and Jews did not intermingle well. They had a very deep theological disagreements, which made them separate so much that it became a normal cultural practice for Jews to just ignore Samaritans. Mm-hmm. Like you weren't allowed to associate with them. Like even like it was in the mentality of like you taught them, you became unclean, which made it, and then doubled down that this was a woman, and in in their culture, if a man just didn't speak to a woman in real life, like they didn't in public. Right, whether they were married, siblings, whatever, like you just like men just don't, especially like someone who's a teacher, considered a rabbi, which Jesus was. They would consider Jesus a teacher, consider him the rabbi. So all this playing into the factor, like Jesus was breaking a lot of rules when it came to this.
Jesus was a rebel.
He was a #rebel.
Was
Some
he
say
though?
liberal, but yes, actually, he didn't wash his hands before meals.
But he's Jesus.
He's Jesus, but he also was redirecting and showing them, hey, you became so blinded with following the law, you became legalistic that you're missing the point of the law. You're missing the point of why God gave you these in the first place. And so that's why when Jesus came, he broke a lot of rules. Mm-hmm. And so he meets this woman at Jacob's well.
Okay.
Which I've actually been to, which is really cool.
Wow.
It's in this church, and you have to like go deep, and you have to go down into the church to like get to where the well is. And to this day, you can actually like get water out and drink it.
That's cool.
I did. I don't even know how to describe what it tastes like. It's very different, but it's so far down. You drop something, there's just a long delay. Then all of a sudden, like it seems like 10 seconds go by, and then you hear.
Was that why you've had a long pause?
Yes. I was going to wait the full 10 seconds. And I was like, maybe 10 seconds of silence on a podcast is probably not a good thing.
Everyone's like, where'd they go?
It's like, wait a second. My phone stopped working. But yeah, so he meets her at this well, whatever. And so they start talking, right? And he's like, hey, give me something to drink, which is actually weird because a lot of people who traveled actually many times, if they knew they were traveling, brought with them essentially like a bucket, not like a metal bucket, but like one made of skin that if they happen to pass near a well or something, they could take from it and drink and, make sure they don't die of thirst from being in the desert. So, I mean, simple survival tips.
Yeah.
And Jesus didn't have this because his disciples went away, they were getting food. And then so this woman in the middle of the day, in the middle of the day, or the hottest part of the day, where actually like the water in the well was actually very warm at this point too. Like it was, many people consider undrinkable, to be honest. And so Jesus meets her exactly at the right time. So he's sitting down, he's tired, and he asks her for water, and she's just like, and she even asked him like, kind of like, where's your bucket? Like, why don't you have anything? So he's like, hey, why don't you give me some? And so they're talking a little bit, and she's like, oh, obviously where's your bucket? But, Jesus references the living water. He goes, oh, like, the water I can give you, you never thirst again. You will never thirst again. And it's very weird that when I originally read this for years, I've always asked the question, why doesn't she question what living water is?
Yeah.
Like, what is living water? Because it's like, if you just say that to me, I'm like, what is that?
Does it have organisms?
Like, what is that? Like,
Yeah.
What do you mean living water? She never questioned
Yeah.
it. Well, that's because if you look into the context, you find that it's actually a well-known thing that they knew back then.
Okay.
That, like, if you said living water, they knew culturally what you meant, right? Like, a lot of days it's like, oh, check my messages, right? Back then, that would have meant nothing to them.
They'd have been like, say what?
They're like, what? Huh? What is that? Right?
They'd have been like, it takes me 3 days to.
It takes me 3 days to get.
Yeah.
But the cool thing about the living water is that there was this deeply held belief that because in Israel, most people think it's just dry, flat desert. It's actually not true. It's actually very hilly and very rocky over there. And there's a lot of like underground caverns and waterways. And because of earthquakes, those change all the time. So it was very common, not very common, but it was at many points, people would find like these bubbling brooks and all of a sudden just like water coming out of somewhere. And so they referenced that as living water because it seemed to move on its own. It seemed to come from its own places, seemed to kind of do what it wants. And their belief was that what made this happen was that a heavenly being, normally like an angel, would come down and purposely stir the water.
Okay.
Would purposely stir the water. And a lot of times people are familiar with this more so from, if you look forward into chapter 5, the beginning of chapter 5, that's Bethesda. Many people live near a Bethesda hospital. And Bethesda was a place that people go for healing because they believe that the stirring of the water, the natural stirring of the water, was an angel coming down giving it healing abilities, but stirring it up so people would like rush in to be healed.
Yeah.
And so that was what living water really meant because there's a common, almost like common knowledge over there. Oops, sorry. Just whacking everything. It's common knowledge that if water didn't move, like it would like be gross, full of organisms, wouldn't be good. But if the water was moving, it's really okay to drink from it because the rocks over there have a natural cleansing of material, a natural cleansing ability. So basically, it's a filter. The whole the earth over there is literally a filter.
Yeah.
I mean, even when I was over there, like if you saw, like you can just scoop down, just
drink it.
In many places, you could just drink it, and it's good and healthy, and it actually tastes amazing.
Yeah.
So when he references, this living water, she's like, well, where can I get this living water? Where can I get it? And he's telling her, you will never thirst from it. And the word thirst actually is a reference to an older, because if you look in the Septuagint, which is the Greek version of the first 5 books of the Bible, the word that's used is the same one that's it's a thirst for God. It's a thirst for God.
Yeah.
So he's saying, hey, I can satisfy your thirst. But of course, he's talking heavily, and so she's talking super
Physically,
literally.
Yeah.
Or she's just like, where can I get this water? And he's like, well, I can give it to you.
Yeah.
And she's what? Like, she's still not, because he had to, like, the conversation like repeats. Mm-hmm. And she's like, what? Like she didn't get it. He's trying to repeat himself.
Yeah.
And it's kind of, and I love this because I think a lot of times we ourselves, when we're kind of like listening to God, he kind of needs to repeat himself sometimes.
Yeah.
He needs to repeat himself where it's like, oh, this.
Sometimes we're not like sure that it's him.
We're not sure that it's him. But we don't understand. He's trying to speak plainly. He's just like, you're still not getting it.
Yeah.
You're still not getting it. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that I have kind of learned to love about this verse is that he's saying that you will never be thirsty again, right? That you will never have to worry about quenching your thirst, quenching your love for the Lord. I can give that to you, right? But I think there's a deeper meaning in that, where we talked about how a heavenly being would come and stir up the water. A lesson that it's actually funny because when we first recorded this podcast, I had a completely different point to it.
Yeah.
And to be honest, like I kind of look back, I'm like, I didn't actually really have a point. Like I didn't really like end in something that's like, oh, this is a cool lesson.
That's probably the reason it never got posted.
Probably another reason. But then there was other circumstances surrounding it to where now I look back. And when Jesus is telling us, I can give you this living water, he's not just saying I am the living water.
Yeah.
He's not just saying I am it. He's actually, that's actually a promise of what he's going to do, because that living water comes in, it bubbles, and it stirs up our lives, right? Because if you look farther in the chapter, he tells her to go get her husband. She's like, no, it's not. He calls her out for not being married. That the guy who she's with now is not her husband. She's had 5 husbands, all this other stuff. And so that living water, we lose that thirst, and of course we gain something more. But to be able to intake that water, you're like, Jesus is going to stir up our lives.
Yeah.
He will stir up our lives, whether it's, he stirs up and, you lose a relationship.
Yep.
You get a new job. You go through a certain time, but like there's a stirring that happens.
He's going to call out all the things
He's
that
going to
you're
call
doing.
but then he's also going to stir your heart and give you that. So
Right.
he's
not going to make you feel like this like oppression from it.
exactly. And so that stirring is going to satisfy you.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, like in you, there are things that are going to change.
Yeah.
100% things
You're
are
going
going to
to
change.
want to have that living
Yes,
water.
you're gonna keep
desire
wanting
it.
it. But above all else, like you're gonna learn that like that stirring comes with some things as well. You know,
Yeah.
because it's never just things are gonna remain they are. It's like no, like once you truly have satisfied that thirst and you constantly are chasing it,
Yeah.
yes, you thirst after God, but you will never have to thirst in that way again. Because you will have a desire to
Yeah.
keep going. You have a desire for that. And so for
so
me,
good.
like, that lesson came, not just came recently, but like has come with pretty hefty, things that
Yeah.
have happened in my life that taught me that where it's like, hey, like God has stirred not just stirred the pot, right? Like,
Yeah.
but he stirred up my
Water.
life.
Yeah.
He stirred up the water that like I have this thirst for him, but like it's a deep, like I know I'm satisfied. I know I'm satisfied. And because even though it's like, he stirred it up, it's like so much good has come from it.
That's good.
And I feel like, I look back and I'm just like, God, like, it's supposed to be this, supposed to be this, supposed to be that. And he just goes, nope.
Yeah.
I'm gonna keep on stirring. I'm gonna keep bubbling more life into you. And so so Jesus is saying, "Oh, I'm the living water," but he's also showing us a promise.
Yeah. That's so good. That's really good for, I feel like, when you are, like you said, you're going in a direction somewhere and you feel like maybe this isn't exactly where you necessarily want it to be, but you like you have that living water, so you're trusting that process of what you're doing. But I think that when we're going through things where it feels like our world is kind of getting stirred up,
For sure.
and we have that living water within us, that's where we're like, okay, God, like I know you're doing something within me, and we kind of trust the process. I feel like more.
Well, if we want to bring it back to our earlier conversation, earlier we were kind of talking about friendships and how things change. Like it's like, well, sometimes that happens. That's a natural part of like the cleansing process, right? Because that living water comes from somewhere, but is cleansed as it's going through rocks, as it's being like essentially pounded and cleansed, and it's going through all these different motions and stirring up. Like, some like friendships that we've had before, they're gone.
Yeah.
They're never going to come back.
Yeah.
Some of the relationships that we've had are never going to come back.
But in the moment, I feel like as we're being cleansed, sometimes it doesn't feel that great.
No, in fact, it feels horrible.
Yeah. It feels like you're losing everyone you
Yes.
know. It almost feels
Your
like,
roles coming in.
yeah, it almost feels like everything is being stripped away in a sense. But it's not. It's just that God is doing something new in you, and you have to just trust the process.
And sometimes that's the most difficult part. It's
Yes.
like, there are plenty of times where God just calls us to take a massive step of faith that is so small.
Yep.
So small.
Like a mustard seed.
Like a mustard seed. There we go. Brought it back around. We're professionals.
It was something you said where I was like, it goes back to a mustard seed. I can't even remember what it was, but yes, you brought it back around.
Yeah, it happens sometimes. But this is such an amazing sermon like lesson, and because I look back on even our other conversation that we had before, and that was so long ago.
Yeah.
That was so long ago. And even recently, like I've been going through some pretty hefty stuff, kind of having certain things stripped away, having certain things. But like when you strip that away, you become lighter.
Yeah.
You like God is, like you said, he's preparing us for more, but more so than that, like he's also preparing other people as well. Because remember, water is fluid.
Yeah.
It's a fluid, right? Like it can come out of other places you don't really know about, all this other stuff. Actually, I think I have another verse I may have to look up because I have a folder.
I like how you said that you become lighter too, because I think in the moment when you are having all this stuff stripped away, it can feel very heavy, you know?
Mm-hmm. For sure.
But it's funny how you said you're actually becoming lighter throughout that process, but you just have to like get through it, get through those waves, get through all the current changes.
Through the waves.
Yeah.
Shout out to this podcast. Shameless self plug.
And so like once you get through it though, it's like you get to the other side of the city or the mountain or whatever, and you realize like, okay, this is why I went through all of this. And it was either like God protecting me or God doing something or God teaching me something, you know?
Oh no, for sure. And you're going to get battered. Like, because I don't know if anyone's been on a boat in rough seas, but that hurts.
Oh, I get sick.
That hurts.
Yeah.
You get sick, it hurts. And I think that's what turns off a lot of people to faith, is because I think in a way there are times where people have made faith, whether it's a leader or other people, have made it seem like this is, oh, it's this. It's like, hey, listen, sometimes faith, like it's hard and heavy, and it hits you in the worst places at the worst time.
Mm-hmm.
But it's so amazing for you.
Yeah.
But no one's willing to talk about those difficult times.
Because the best thing about faith is no matter what we do, like God always loves us.
No matter what.
Yeah.
Even if we're running so far away from him.
Yeah. He still wants us to come back. He still wants that relationship. He's still seeking us. He still loves us. And he knows every hair on your head.
He knows the number.
Yeah.
He knows mistakes you already made, what you're gonna make.
Exactly.
And yet he still
loves you.
Wants that.
Yeah. God will always love you. And that's just one thing I want people to know from this podcast, is that people are always going to suck. You know, I might hurt people without you hurt people without realizing it.
Oh yeah, all the time.
You know,
all the time.
And so just don't let people bother you so much.
I thought you were going to say don't suck.
Yeah, don't suck. But I don't even know how we got on the topic of love and people and whatever.
Well, I mean, I think part of love at times fits back into our story of having the water stirred, like we get that living water, because the living water, like it moves, it thrashes around. Not to keep harping on that, but like that makes sense. Like Jesus comes down and stirs up our life, stirs us up, and like people suck.
Yeah.
Like we're gonna go through that. But the one thing is like he's stirring it up for a purpose, and stirring up for his, like, because he loves us, because there are times where, like, yes, love hurts.
Yeah.
You're married. Love can hurt.
And just like your parents, like disciplining you as a child, it's so funny because the other day JR was vacuuming and he's like, I'm so thankful that my parents made me do chores and told me how to vacuum, because now I know how to vacuum and it's so easy. But he's like, I'm never going to tell them.
And he became great wife material. I'm just saying.
But he was like, I'm never going to tell them thank you for teaching me how to vacuum, because he's like, why would you tell your parents thank you for making you do chores? It was a tough lesson. Yes, but it was like, that was like tough love. And I feel like sometimes that's what we experience with like stirring the living water, and just our relationship with God is like, he's God, he's our Father, and so he sometimes is just showing us. There were times when
he will kind of discipline us a little bit.
Yeah.
He'll call us out on our crap. Like Jesus literally called her out for everything she was doing.
Yep.
She was like, how do you know this? Well, duh. I am the living water.
Right.
I am the one coming. Yahweh, I am.
Yeah.
So, like, that's why, like, you know, at times it's like, yeah, like you're gonna get the hurt sometimes.
Yeah.
But that's also time. That's also a time to embrace it.
Yeah. It's all for good reason.
That's all in a time, because, I mean, I think that's partially of like what I've learned over the past couple of years is like the hurt can help.
Yeah. Oh, 100%.
The hurt can help. There's purpose in the pain. Like, not to just quote other pastors, whatever.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm going to just quote Skillet, because I don't want to quote a pastor.
Skillet? Is that a rapper?
The Christian band?
Oh.
Skillet?
I've never heard of them.
Monster?
Skillet.
You've heard of Monster. You've heard of Hero.
I've heard of none of them.
Well, no. I will play them for you afterwards so you don't get copyrighted.
Okay.
and you will know exactly who I'm talking
Shout out
about.
to Skillet if you want to be on our podcast. Well, I don't know who you are, but come on on.
John Cooper, come on, bro. I want to be beer buddies with you, man. I love that guy. But yeah,
Beard buddies. That's a new one.
I'll show you pictures. You'll understand. You will
Okay.
understand. But yeah, like, so don't fear the pain. Don't feel the pain. Like, I mean, honestly, it's gonna sound weird, but like, embrace the storm.
Yep.
Embrace the rough ways, embrace the living water, like, drink from it, be fulfilled,
Yep.
because you're going to have that thirst. You're going, at one point, you're gonna be crawling and be like, man, it's so hot, I'm so exhausted. I mean, because even Jesus in this whole story, there's so many lessons to be learned from this. Like, Jesus shows his humanity here. Jesus shows that he understands what it's like to be tired, what it's like to be he probably was annoyed with like, I guarantee you half the reasons he sent the disciples away is because he was just annoyed with them. I almost guarantee it. Because they're a bunch of teenagers.
Yeah.
They were a bunch of teenagers. And he's this 30-something-year-old guy. He's just like,
I
your
was
bickering
not a good teenager.
your bickering is annoying me. Go away. Go find food so
Yeah.
I don't strangle you all.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I get, like, because Jesus was still human. Like, he still
Yeah.
felt this way.
Yeah.
And but like, because it does, in here it says, like, he sat at the well.
Mm-hmm.
He was tired. It was the middle of the day. It was hot. There's the
Yeah.
wood. Honestly, like, in that area, there's no shade.
Yeah.
There's no shade whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if this thing wasn't in a church, it'd be like just a random hole in the middle of a couple of hills.
Wow.
And so he'd been tired and he's hot, and so he really would, like, he was being literal, like, hey, I need a drink, but at the same time he's also like, if you only understood what I can give you through this.
Mm-hmm.
Even while he was still tired, but he was showing us his humanity, showing that, like, even while he was still exhausted, even while he was still like, hey, I have something to share with you.
Yeah.
And that's kind of, I feel like that's kind of for us as well. It's like, hey, we may be exhausted.
Yeah.
We can be exhausted. We can be thirsting or wanting something, but yet we still can give.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was pretty much the lesson.
But yeah, I think like him sitting at the well and just showing like his humility and showing that he was human at that point, and that like he, like you said, he really needed a drink, but like he also came to her and said, I'm here to give you the living water. But that is so good. And I think the whole point of today is just knowing that through all the shifting, through all the changing, through all the, what did you call it? With the water swirling, with all the swirling,
Stirring up.
yeah, that could be God just like stirring up something new in your life, or stirring up that water in your life. And I feel like those moments are the best moments to where you can just like let your faith grow and let your faith thrive. And
Yes.
like you said, don't give in to fear. Just embrace it. Embrace the waves.
Embrace the waves, get through the waves. Wait, actually, hold on. I was thinking about this. I was like, I don't know what it was, but I was thinking about this, what was it, last night? And I was like, living water, it's gonna get you through the waves, living water.
Is that a song?
No, I just made it up.
Oh, I like that.
Wait, kids, like a new intro.
Living water.
Living water.
Oh, and you said you weren't going to sing in front of people.
Well, first off, this is not in front of people. This is a recording.
This
and-
is in front of JR.
But it's JR. That's my bromance.
You know my grandpa, you want to hear something crazy since we're talking about songs with Through the Waves in it?
Okay.
My grandpa, he used to listen to this song, and every time I would go to his house, he would make me sing it with him. I'm like, oh, come on, Grandpa, again? And it was called He Will Make a Way Where There Is No Way. I think it was just called He Will Make a Way. But there was this one part after I started Through the Waves. I went back and listened to it after he passed away. And there's this one part in the song where she goes, he can move mountains, ride you through the waves. He can deliver.
Is that where you got the name of Through the Waves?
No.
No.
No. And then I went back and listened to that song and I was like, wow, that's God right there. Isn't that crazy?
Living water. He will get you through the waves. Living water.
I like it. Record it.
You know what?
send it.
We need to get some friends who can sing and actually make like a real intro with that.
Heck yeah. Let's do it.
Welcome to Through the
Sabrina,
Waves.
Roxy, Genesis, Franklin.
Oh, stacked crew.
Yeah.
Oh wow. Okay. We can do that.
everyone else, I mean, we have so many friends who can sing. So if I didn't name you, I'm sorry. But you're a great singer too.
Yeah,
popped into
you
my
know
mind.
who you are.
Yeah. You can really sing.
Even though I didn't say it. You know who you are.
But thank you, Tyler, for coming today.
No, thank you for
and
inviting me
you'll
to your home.
probably see Tyler come back on this podcast again because I feel like we have a lot to talk about. If you guys haven't noticed, we like to talk.
Nope, not at all.
So Tyler will definitely be back, and we really hope that this helped you today. Do you have anything you want people to take away from what you said today on the podcast?
I feel like I could take this like it's hard because like it's ironically to boil it down to something. I mean, honestly, just let the stirring happen.
Yeah.
Be a living water, because you yourself are being filled with that living water. So give the living water.
That's good. Yep. Live, let it happen, and give. Oh, that was kind of like a rhyme. Live, let it happen.
I feel like we're like writing a song right now.
Yo.
Like a brand new worship album. Like,
you know who we need on here? Vanilla Ice. We watched that Vanilla Ice show, and he raps and rhymes on all of them. And if you want to be on this podcast, and we live in West Palm, you live in like Wellington or something. So if you would like to come on here and write the raps for us, we would welcome it.
Because I can't rap.
Neither can I. I mean, actually, I had a rap notebook in 8th grade. I did. And
I'm sorry, what?
My mom threw it out. Actually, my aunt threw it out. But then she mailed a page of it to my mom.
That is so weird.
What had happened was...
See, what had happened was...
I lived in Ohio. I brought my rap notebook down here. Was like sitting on a plane wishing I had a candy cane. This guy in front of me has crazy hair. I don't know what to do but stare. Yo, I can't believe I just rapped that on air. Whoa!
That was awesome. I'm actually like really impressed right now.
But I brought my rap notebook to Florida and I left it here. I was like 14. And then I got back to Ohio and I was like, oh, must have lost it. I get home from school one day and my mom has a page of my rap notebook like ripped out. And I was like, oh, yes, you found my rap notebook. And she goes, no, we need to talk. And she's like, what is this? And I will not tell you guys what was on that piece of paper, but it was not good for...
Can you tell me later?
I'll tell you later. But let's just say like I got in trouble for it and my aunt threw out my rap notebook. So
wait,
I do have a history of
So you were the one who
rapping.
originally wrote, yeah.
Yeah, honestly, like Drake probably found my raps and he's a millionaire now. So he should give me a cut.
Thanks, Drake.
Yeah. Thanks, Drake. If you want to throw me some cash.
Help a sister out.
Yeah. But anyways, on that note, thank you guys for joining. And we hope that this helped you today. We hope that you really enjoyed it today. We hope you had some fun today. We were pretty silly on the podcast today, but
Always.
it's a good time.
It's a good time.
It's not always about being serious. It's just about living that lightheartedness through those waves, So catch you next time. Have a great day. Bye.
Bye, guys.